Good morning, Story Trading VIP community, back with our pre-market prep. We've been killing it every morning for the last few weeks, and we're going to try our best again to make sense out of markets and give you some possible opportunities for today and kind of a theme or direction that the day might go in. So let's get started. We're looking at SPY QQQ right at the top and our cheat code TLT. Now, TLT actually, I don't know, something may have just happened. Interesting to me. Is something going on in Russia? I'm curious. I don't know, because let me just check something real quick. Let's just check USO. This just happened just in the last few minutes. Yesterday we had a little bit of a scare. Let me just quickly check gold. Nothing pointing out there. All right. So in any case, it's a little bit unusual to see TLT spiking right into the open and SPY QQQ down. So let me just give you my analysis before this little move. Is all morning TLT was teetering between, was basically flat to slightly down. And that was the first time we've been seeing that in TLT in this move here. And at the same time, SPY and QQQ were slightly negative. Now, so I started thinking, all right, well, maybe we're going to start pulling back. Maybe there's some consolidation on this bear market rally. But the thing that's really making me worry, price that in a little bit and think about that, is the commentary from Target. Okay, remember, it's story trading. We look at multiple pillars. We're not like technical traders only looking at the charts on SPY and QQQ. We're also looking at sentiment indicators. And this morning, Target, you can see they missed and lowered guidance down 15%. And the commentary in here, there's a lot of different articles, a lot of different snippets with quotes from the CEO. I shared one of them in the rooms. And you can see here they're basically talking about the macroeconomic condition, shopping behavior increasingly impacted by inflation, rising interest rates, and economic uncertainty. There's other negative comments about the consumer in here. Now, the question is, could it be something specific to Target, right? Walmart had great earnings the other day. Could Target be losing market share to Walmart? Or is this really an indicator, a sentiment indicator of what's going on with the economy? So you can see Target there dropping below the 200 DMA. So I take that commentary, especially when you've had a nice run in the indices, where the market is looking for any excuse to say, okay, it's exhausted, let me take some profits. So this may be the trigger. These comments from Target might be a trigger to say, all right, time to take some profits. Yet at the same time, we're seeing TLT here up this morning, which is a good sign as far as interest rates go. And maybe the two are connected, right? We may be getting out of this area where the market was all about inflation and interest rates. And now we're moving to a scenario where it's about recession, right? Because, hey, if recession is coming, people aren't going to be spending, then interest rates will have to come down. Bonds are going to go up. But now maybe the markets are going to have to correct because of the recession. Perhaps we're going through that transition. So we're going to be monitoring these indicators and how, TLT, UUP, SPY, and QQ interact with each other, combined with looking at how, the news commentary to come up with that assessment. But that is something we got to think about, right? At what point do we go into an earnings recession? So big picture, let's just look at the indices. We do have room to the upside on SPY to 405 and the downside here at 385. Even bigger picture, I still worry that this whole move off the 200 week moving average is just a bear market rally. And who knows, we could be in for something like the .com bust, which was down for, be down for another year or two potentially if we close below the 200 week moving average. So there's still plenty to be cautious about. You got to be careful on the QQQ upside potentially all the way up here to 318. And you can see the downside there at 277. So we're going to be monitoring those technical levels, monitor TLT. And again, Target has me worried. So, I would think it's a good time to be a little more cautious, have a little bit more cash. Maybe you want to do a little bit of hedging. Maybe you want to start rotating your money into some of their safer stocks. And one of them, we're going to bring Chris Tarbert on, a stock like Clearfield, which is recession resistant, recession proof even perhaps, is probably a good stock to be in. We'll talk about that in just a second. All right, besides those earnings, I want to point out, while Lowe's had decent earnings, they actually increased guidance. And Zim, we've been talking about all morning in the room. I mean, these numbers are just insane. The question is, how sustainable are the earnings? So Zim in with like over $9 EPS, $3 dividend, Their PE's under 1. It's just insane. We called it out earlier this week in the room when it broke the 50 DMA, suggested it could be a play here going into earnings. So I personally didn't take it, but we did note that out, and now it's moving strongly above the 200 DMA, the 50 DMA. So Zim might be something that could be day tradable today, buying the dips. It's really the only strong stock this morning out of all the earnings plays we've been following. Zim has been the only one with a great report and a good pre-market. NVIDIA earnings after hours, so we'll be monitoring that as far as it could have an impact on the market. Pretty big, important company, a $415 billion market cap. So all eyes are going to be on NVIDIA today. You can see where the 20 DMA is. It's right in the middle of the 20 and the 200 DMA. So really, who knows which way it goes? We'll have to wait for that earnings report. We'll come back to Clearfield with our guest, Chris Tarbert, in just a second. Quickly want to talk about DWAC. I've been suspicious about this, right? My thesis was we're going to peak either yesterday or early this morning. And yeah, it looks like the bottom's falling out of this. So I did not hold this overnight. And yeah, Trump announced his running last night. Sell the news. Simple as that, usually. But, you know, you never knew. There was a chance people could get real excited about Trump running and boom, the thing breaks above 30 and goes. You know, that's a possibility always, but this does not have the fundamentals with it because DWAC is basically an empty shell, and they're not, most likely not even merging with Truth Social. That's the problem with DWAC. That's what makes me hesitate so much, aside from valuation. But at least if it was an actual vehicle for Truth Social, then you can be a little more stronger about it. Now, interestingly enough, PHUN, which has been trading with DWAC, is still up this morning. Why is that? Because PHUN actually has some fundamentals here. PHUN is the company that made the campaign app and other technology for the Trump campaign last cycle. So it's likely a lot of people are thinking they're going to make the Trump campaign this cycle. And obviously that'll bring him revenue, hopefully at good margins. I really don't know the business very well in terms of their margins for a job like that. But at least there's some meat behind this move. And potentially, you know, you have some support levels that can be bought around the excitement of Trump running for the people who care about that. For the DWAC fund trade, fund seems like a much, much safer play on this situation. All right, Rum down. Rum was like crashing last night. I think they had a all-time record viewership last night watching the announcement from Trump, and their architecture got really strained. It kept on logging me out. It kept on crashing. They had concurrent viewers is the biggest I've ever seen for Rum. Rum thesis still intact. You know, always have the possibility of downside to the 5 to 8 scenario. I'm waiting for an update from Chris Tuttle to see if he's changed his opinion, either lowered it or increased it on the fair value on this. But I continue to think the best way to play this is by selling puts. The yields are just incredible on Rum. DRIO earnings yesterday were excellent. We had a 25-30% move yesterday. Looks like it may want to consolidate here this morning. There was one analyst report that came out so far that I saw maintaining a buy, Alliance Global Partners, but they reduced their price target from like $9 to $7. So I haven't seen any other analysts who are sure to get 3 or 4 more updates on DRIO soon. They're also participating at Craig Hallam this week and BTIG, I believe, next week, November 21st, or is that later this week, on DRIO. All right. We got QUIK earnings yesterday. All right. I am putting out a request for some serious due diligence on QUIK. I read the report yesterday. I listened to most of the CC, and this seems to be a very, very interesting opportunity. People have been putting on my table as a potential next heir, and that report seems to indicate to me there is a possibility that revenue here inflects into the tens of millions over the next year or two in a profitable way as well. Now, the top line numbers were just in line. The stock spiked going to earnings. Some people may be looking for a huge beat. That's why they may have sold that news last night on the top line numbers, the headline numbers, I should say, because the bottom line was also in line. But there's something here. Okay, so whoever in our community wants to dig their heels in and start researching this, let's collaborate on it. Maybe let's get a presentation on a nighttime Zoom so a lot of people can attend and we can collaborate on this together. Maybe we'll then go after that and try to get the CEO. There's something here. I'm putting the alert out. Let's research QUIK together, QUIK. Other than that, we'll move quickly here because we got to get to Clearfield. But GLNG had earnings this morning, up slightly. I mean, they're making a ton of money, like every stock in the energy sector. Very hard for me to, kind of give you a prediction on where this goes because all of these stocks have very low PEs, great cash flow. This stock was given to us by Matt on a play of what's going on in Russia, natural gas kind of logistics because of the pipeline disruptions over there. The thesis is that they're going to benefit from that pipeline disruption. SANW, brought to our attention by Julian. It's been in our watch list for a while as an agriculture play. So we don't have time to look at it together right now, but they had earnings the other day, which Julian brought to our attention, thought it was worthy of looking into. And if you look at this is an agricultural microcap ag play, a 2050 bullish cross seems to be forming. It's above the 50 DMA for a couple days now, which I like. If you look at it historically, that 50 DMA has been blocking it. So potentially in a spot here where the technicals are telling you that something is turning around with the fundamentals. So it is worth looking into. So maybe we'll have a chance to collaborate on SANW later today. There was a little bit of news out on RELL. They were in some Forbes article. I think they're going to be at some presentation, someone said, later this month, coming up at some conference. And look at this, how it's trying to bounce off the 20 DMA. So I have RELL, I own it, just a long-term position for me. But the RSI down at 59, correcting from the 80s and bouncing off the 20 DMA, this might be ready to start on its move up. And this might be one of those stocks that does okay in a market correction, recession resistant, and it did really well in the last market drawdown. So take a look at RELL. Last night, quick summary, we had Mark Gomes come on giving us updates on VTSI, CTLP, SMSI, TPCS, all with interesting news coming out. Well, the VTSI was kind of known, nothing so interesting. It was just recapping their earnings that they missed the headlines, but the backlog really great, so that's good. We have the VTSI CEO coming on tomorrow night at 9 p.m. on Zoom. So clear out your schedule. If you're watching the recording here at 4 p.m. on YouTube, you can sign up for a free trial at StoryTrading.com so you can tune in to that 9 p.m. VTSI. Oh, by the way, I should say DRIO today at 4:30, we're interviewing the CEO. So 4:30 today, Zoom CEO Q&A, 30 minutes, all right? A quick Q&A for retail from 4:30 to 5 p.m. And CTLP, there was some news on some Subway relationship. You can go listen to the recording on that in the app. SMSI, T-Mobile started advertising the next important product that we've been waiting for from SMSI. So the stock that's been going around in the communities, and TPCS says they're now inflecting to profitability here. Mark gave a presentation on that yesterday. I grilled him hard on all of these, so take a look at that, and you can make your own decision if these four stocks, if it's time to make those plays. And again, just want to remind you of kind of those new fangs, agriculture stocks. If we do get a correction here, stocks like ADM, CNHI, and again, the recession-resistant ones like Clearfield and RELL may do better. So now let's dig into Clearfield. Before I bring Chris on, just a little recap. He's been on this all year for us, man, since like the low 50s or something. He was telling us about this, and we caught that huge move to like 120 or something like that. So Chris, let me welcome Chris back to the show. And just a reminder, at StoryTrading, we're not certified financial advisors. I'm not a certified financial advisor. Our guest, Chris, is not a certified financial advisor. I do own stock in Clearfield. And Chris, I understand Clearfield has earnings tomorrow?
Yes, they do. It's been a little bit of a push off from earnings from when they usually do their year end by about a week or 10 days. The company came out and basically said that due to their recent acquisition of Nestle Cables and I guess some audit issues, that the earnings are pushed off like, a week from normal. May have caused the stock to pull back a bit, but I think it's much to do about nothing. So, Ben, here's what I'm looking for in the call tomorrow in the earnings release. Obviously,
is it in the morning, Chris? Tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon?
Tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So a couple of things I'm looking for. Obviously, one of the metrics I like to look at is what percentage of the backlog that they convert into revenue. With their recent, production facility in Mexico ramping up, obviously we're looking for continued efficiencies in that. They've come out publicly and also in the latest Needham analyst report saying that they expect to normalize, their backlog from 6 months down to a quarter. So I think in 2023, you may see a couple quarters where you see that percentage of revenue from backlog tick up. In the last few quarters, it's been around 50 to 55%. I think you could see that jump back up into the 70, 80% range. So you might see a couple quarters where you see some really large revenue boosts. Obviously, I mentioned about the acquisition of Nestor Cables that closed, I believe, in mid-July. So you'll have this quarter with part of Nestor in it. I think they plan to break out some of the Nestor reporting requirements separate from the company. But to see the sort of both entities combined in terms of overall revenue will be good to see. I also want to see any commentary on market share, especially in the tier 1 market. As we've talked about before, Clearfield has a very high penetration in the community broadband in the tier 2, tier 3 markets. They're starting to make inroads in tier 1. Some commentary in the latest Needham report is that they're looking to make inroads in homes connected versus homes passed, which is a significant revenue boost. They claimed it in the homes passed market. They're usually getting about $40 per every home passed, but in the home connection market, that jumps up to $150 to $200. So obviously a good market for them to concentrate their efforts on. Lastly, I want to see some updates on the different large grant programs out there. You got the BEAD program, you got Rural Development Opportunity Fund. Commentary from some of the other players in the space start to say that money's starting to trickle in, but 2023, 2024, I think we'll start to see some large numbers come out in that. And then lastly, they've made some comments about being part of this consortium in Canada called Fiber One, where them and about 4 or 5 other partners are really marketing to the broadband grant money in Canada that's looking around to be around $9 billion to $10 billion. So it'd be great to see some commentary on that. In terms of numbers, again, I think the analysts on the street are sandbagging. They're around 71 million, I think around, mid 85, 86 cents per share. If you look at the history of what Clearfield's done, especially over the last year, they've beat on average the analyst numbers by around 40%. Back in August, I called out that I thought revenue would be in the high 80s and that earnings per share would tick up to about $1.10. I'm going to stay with that, especially after reading their commentary in the Needham report that came out on October 11. So obviously, they've seen the quarter about how strong it's going to be. I don't see any reason to change from that. I just think they're going to post a strong number, and just like to see how the backlog tracks and still foreseeing that major growth going on.
Yeah, great. Thanks. We've had some explosive moves after earnings this year. I see the RSI relatively low, which has me excited. If they get a good number, there is definitely room to be bought. We do have some overhead resistance here at the 50 and the 20 DMA. So what are your thoughts on price? Like, fundamentally, what do you think this stock should be trading at?
Oh, that's the $1 million question. So it's all depending upon the multiple. I sort of looked at the PE trends over the last 3 years for Clearfield. It seems to be in that 30 to 45 range. Look, last quarter, they did 53 cents and 45 million. So if you're looking at year over year comps, I mean, you're looking at a 90, 95, 100%, growth rate in both EPS and revenue. Look, obviously, I don't think they deserve a software multiple, but historically, when the company has beat earnings, they've had a PE of let's say 35 to 40, which I don't think is unheard of for a stock or for an earnings story that's growing at 100%. Right. So look, I think I called out that I wouldn't be surprised in 2023 if they did $5 in earnings, or a $5 earning run rate at some point. And if you attach a 35 PE to that, you're starting to, hit around 150, 160 bucks sometime in 2023.
Okay, cool. And let's see what that current trailing PE is, 33. So, let me just throw in my contribution for this. Something I've noticed on like day one price reactions on earnings is if you take the most recent earnings and then you annualize it and then throw on that existing PE, that very often seems to be a target the price gravitates to on day one. So let's kind of do that exercise together here. You're saying you're expecting about $1 tomorrow?
$1.10.
$1.10. You annualize that, that takes you to 440. Throw on a 33 multiple on that. Ooh, that takes you over $120. So I don't know. That might be a little aggressive, but maybe not. I don't know. You think that's
Well, I mean, look,
in the cards?
yeah. Well, look, last earnings report, the first week or two after earnings, granted they were added to one of the indexes, but the stock jumped up to 120, 130. Again, I think with these numbers, the analysts are probably going to really have to ratchet up their 2023 numbers, because I think right now they're at around 371, and if a company comes out and is over $1, $1.05, $1.10, the analysts themselves, I think, are going to have to start to push up around 440, 455 bucks. So I don't think it's unheard of. I mean, I think the company's done a good job of stepping up expectations, and I see no reason why that won't continue.
Yeah, definitely possible. It seems like seems just looking at this chart, it's like, wow, that would be crazy. So much volatility. But I mean, this has been a crazy chart all year. So I guess it's possible we see another sharp move to close to the high. So looking forward to that, Chris. I hope it turns out that way. Hope we get that close to $1.10 tomorrow, and we get a nice move, hopefully over $100. That'll be great.
Yep. So let's hopefully let's regroup Friday morning, and we can go through hopefully all the things that we talked about today, and we'll get some more color on their opportunities.
Awesome. Sounds great, Chris. Looking forward to that update Friday.
Thanks, Ben.
All right. Take care. All right. There you have it. Closing out that show with a Clearfield earnings preview. Again, especially good timing from a sentiment perspective, a market sentiment perspective. If we are going to be getting a pullback, you want to be in stocks that are seen as recession resistant or even recession proof. So that's definitely a good idea for today, as we're seeing now Zim with a continuation move to 28.50. Again, really the strongest stock. The only thing I've found in our watch list this morning where the earnings look exciting enough and the pre-market action looks strong enough where we might get a nice move on it today, or nice trading opportunities out of it today. All right. So with that, guys, today's not going to be as easy, right? We don't have as the indicators we want, although let's watch that TLT. TLT is up, okay? And that thesis I presented to you this morning, there's one of two options. That TLT continues to be our cheat code, and markets later today, especially RK, will turn back up and match the move in TLT, or perhaps concern is now shifting and towards recession. If that happens, then you go back to your old paradigm where you see an inverse relationship between bonds and stocks. That's how it used to be forever, right? I had to relearn this new relationship with TLT this year because of the crazy stuff going on with inflation and interest rates. But usually, historically, in an environment where inflation is calm, TLT, bonds, and stocks go in opposite directions as investors look for safe havens and bonds when valuations are too high in the stock market. That could be what we're seeing here this morning, and perhaps it is being triggered by the commentary out of Target. So we'll have to see, guys. Thank you for joining us. And if you're not yet a VIP looking at this recording, you can head on over to StoryTrading.com, 7-day free trial, 4:30 p.m. today. We will be on with private VIP. It's not going to go on YouTube. A private VIP event with DRIO for CC with retail investors at 4:30 p.m. And tomorrow night, 9 p.m., CEO of VTSI. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for all your collaboration. And again, QUIK. Let's pick up the research on that together. I think there's something there.